I, for the life of me, can't realise why I didn't think this was that amazing the first time I watched it.
What is up, guys? Welcome to Boomer Base, and today I'm here to review the 2021 sci-fi spectacle that is Denis Villeneuve's Dune Part 1. Now, I'm coming and doing this movie review for obvious reasons, and that is for preparation for Dune Part 2 that has just started airing, and we'll be doing a review for that very, very soon, so look forward to that video. I will try and link that video somewhere either on screen or in the description once I have reviewed that movie. Without further ado, let's get cracking.
But before we get to the real content, if you end up liking what you see and want to see more, please subscribe and hit the bell to be notified anytime I upload.
Welcome back to Boomer Base, and today do I have a very special movie review for you. As mentioned, here to talk about Denis Villeneuve's Dune Part 1. I'll address some background with Dune as a series, a piece of media as a whole. Up until the release of this back in 2021, I hadn't seen or really watched or read anything to do with Dune. I knew that there was a book called Dune, but I hadn't explored anything to do with this piece of media. Then I scrolled on my Odeon at the time and I saw that the 1984 David Lynch Dune was out. And I was like, well, if I'm going to go see the new Dune, I may as well watch the old Dune. I watched that and it was so-so. It was very dated, and I think for the time, big thumbs up, but other than that, we can move on from it. I then saw Dune Part 1, and although I loved the film, the fact that it was Part 1 without having a Part 2 very soon just didn't agree with me. It felt like I'd eaten some food that I liked, but got an upset stomach from it. The fact that I just couldn't have my Part 2 just meant that I couldn't re-watch this at any point until Part 2 was out, and hence why I'm doing this movie review now, because, hey, Part 2 is out, and I've gone and re-watched it. So when I first watched Dune Part 1, after the film, bar those bad things, of course I liked it. And it's been, over 2 years plus now since I last watched it. So this is the second time I've watched it and why I'm doing this movie review. And I gotta say, I think it's a solid 10 out of 10 film. I think the only bit that I didn't like from rewatching this film was there was a part where Paul has a dream and he's in one of the suits and his face looks very CGI'd and it didn't look very, very good. But that was the only bit that visually didn't look good. Everything else for me just looked spectacular. Now, for rewatching this, I bought the 4K version and it was a treat to watch. It just looked crisp and clean on my 60-inch television. And that is the way to watch a film like this. Turned out the lights, all dark, volume turned up. It was great. I like every aspect of this film. You have such an immense cast. You have Timothée Chalamet as Paul Atreides. You got Zendaya as Chani, Rebecca Ferguson as Lady Jessica, Oscar Isaac as Duke Leto Atreides, Stellan Skarsgård as Baron Vladimir something or other. You got Jason Momoa as Duncan Idaho. Many other names. There's like Javier Bardem as Stigler, Josh Brolin as Gurney Halleck. I can't remember what Batista's character is called. There's David Dasmalkian as Peter de Vries, if that's how I've pronounced all of that right. And then Stephen McKinney is in it as well. And I can't really remember if there's anyone else in it that I haven't mentioned. I obviously know there's, Christopher Walken and Florence Pugh in Dune Part 2, so that would be interesting to see that. And I think there's Anna Taylor-Joy in it and Austin Butler as well, so the stacked cast that it already was is getting even more stacked. Now, I'll talk about Jason Momoa very, very quickly. I don't dislike Jason Momoa, but I haven't seen him in anything that's been very good. And in this film, I'm not saying he was very good. He wasn't bad either, but it felt like he fit, which was nice. He got to show off his sort of athletic sort of prowess, just being just like a shit-hot good fighter for House Atreides, which was always very cool to see. I think the only part I didn't like with it, actually, I'll say that, this is the other part I didn't like with the film. I didn't like that he didn't have a beard. I thought that looked very, very odd, and I wasn't a fan of that. That's pretty much all the bad stuff I have to say with this. Maybe the run time's a bit long as a whole, but once Dune Part 2 is out, I will consider this just Dune. Part 1 and Part 2. There'll probably be things I'll try watch in one sitting, which, like a 5-hour thing, that's a bit long, but today was great. I just sat down with my friend, we both had Subway, and we just took our time and watched this. You know, we could pause and have a wee when we wanted, type of thing, or go get some more food, and it just felt nice. There was no rush. And for things like this is how I like to view it, which might sound odd to people, but you know, I view this in the same way that I would Lord of the Rings. Sometimes I'll just go out of my way and watch just a single film of Lord of the Rings, but I mainly like to consume Lord of the Rings as just one sitting. Of course, I'm going to want to move about, and if I move about and allow myself to go for wheeze, get more food, just stand up and have a little chat for a second, I get less restless. So it's always a bonus for me, so that's a little bit on the sidetrack, but hey-ho. The visuals. You cannot fault the visuals of this film. It looked amazing, top to bottom. The cinematography, the colour, you name it. Everything looked great. All the sort of dystopian, future-esque vehicles, spaceships, all of the planets, any of the sort of technology and gadgets, they all looked great in this film. Hans Zimmer and his musical score knocked it out of the park. That weird, I don't know, OST of that lady that's going like, making the weird like tribal calling sounds, that's stuck in my head and I love it so much. Like, it's something I might just start listening to. It's so good. What else do we have? The combat and action sequences in this film are top notch as well. Of course, we've seen better, and in Dune it's more of a sci-fi spectacle for me. I'm not expecting, you know, crazy top tier Bruce Lee, Raid, Ip Man sort of choreography and things. This does well. The fight scenes are believable, they're cool, and they're well choreographed. Fan of that. Now, one of the obviously biggest aspects of Dune is obviously Arrakis, with the sand, the spice, the Fremen, all very, very cool aspects. They all look believable, they all look cool. And when I say believable, like, I can picture these as people that live out in crazy hot sand without any to much water at all, living just a completely closed off lifestyle. You know, people that are hunted, people that are, you know, not necessarily scorned, but just not the most well-viewed people. Obviously, this film has a lot to bring to the table. You know, we watch Paul kind of, I'm not going to say spoilt, but we basically see his story and character develop dramatically in just the, I'll say the short period of 2 hours and 40 odd minutes or so that Dune Part 1 was. I think it was like 2 hours, 2 hours like 30. It was great watching his character kind of come off from this sort of pompous aspect to, you know, starting to be a leader, you know, starting to maybe be the chosen one. Now, I can't fully remember the David Lynch ending or just the ending of Dune as a whole, so I'm interested to watch where it goes. I'm fairly sure he just becomes this messiah and leader and helps destroy the Harkonnens and things, but I honestly can't remember, and that's the nice thing from just leaving it for so long. One day I might read Dune, and especially as I'm enjoying the Dune characters a lot more, I can picture things a lot more. I'm very excited for it. I think overall, if you're a sci-fi fan, you've seen this film. I think you will have enjoyed this film, so there isn't much for me to dive across. I just wanted to get my thoughts out on the table before I go watch Dune 2 tomorrow, and finally be able to piece the Dune film as a whole together and kind of figure out how I feel about it as a whole. Now, I'm very excited for Dune 2, and I really hope the hype is going to be lived, essentially, so I can kind of call these films amazing as a whole. Now, I rated this film between a sort of 9 and 10. Like, it's a 10 in an aspect in some of my head, and then it's just still a 9 as a whole, but I think I'd have to give it a 10 anyways. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and tune in to another movie review here at Boomer Base. Take care now, have a lovely rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Hey, thank you for watching the video. Click the button to keep watching, or click the other video for more videos, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.